All right, so we are at the piano. Thank you, Jay, for providing the sheet music as well. That helps for me to see. I read here on your post that you've been playing piano for a year, which is incredible. Congratulations. I just listened to the original song just to get a reference here. First off, I really like how you incorporated the rhythm, the main rhythmic quality of the song into the left hand in quite an accurate way. And obviously all of the melodic elements, I think it's really well done. So in the song, we have that constant percussive element in the background. It's quite subtle, it's very apparent, but it's not overbearing in terms of volume over the voice. But it's there and we'd certainly feel it. If we continue to have that throughout the whole song, I think it has a different type of weight. Because of the register, because of the volume, even when we're playing it very quietly, the number of notes in this register really overpowers the melody on top. So I might consider, just to lighten things up, put less of a focus on the accompaniment. The accompaniment has to be there and we need to feel the rhythm for sure, but the main thing that we want to hear is the melody and the harmonic changes and the phrasing. I might consider all of these rolls to not repeat the bottom one. Just taking out that bottom note might work better, in my opinion. So what I did there is I simply swapped out certain intervals, maintaining the A flat major chord in that measure. So just pare it down and maybe not always include the bass note hits. At certain points, maybe add more notes to the right hand vertically. So add some chords to the right hand, and that could provide a little more balance in terms of a balance of register. So instead of, if we have a held note there, that might be worth considering. So just a final thought about this. The tricky thing about arranging a vocal part that has instrumentals for the piano or just for a single instrument is that the vocal part is most likely treated as a single line at first, and that coupled with the accompaniment, however form you put it for your instrument, doesn't have as much weight. So there are a lot of ways that you can work around that, like adding some more vertical notes to the right hand. But in general, I would just keep that in mind to not overcrowd whatever arrangement you're doing with things that will get in the way and take away from the melody. And I wouldn't take what's happening in the song so literally. So I wouldn't try to include all of the different lines, different inner lines, different phrases that are included in the song onto the piano. That's all I have to say. Great job. This next one is by Paul. It's Debussy arranged for electric guitar. Amazing. So I really like the effects that you're using, especially for Clair de Lune. I think it's really original. It's really creative how you use both the arabesque and the Clair de Lune with the film. Yeah, I think it's very creative. Really, really cool. My initial reaction is that I think it could be played slightly slower, and not to do with the effects, but if the guitar tone or the volume could be slightly more subdued. So something a little more, just a fuzzier sound, softer, gentler. So regarding tempo and the phrasing of this line and this arabesque in general, it feels like at the tempo that you are playing this, it feels a little fast because the swells from one point to the next within phrases, it's a bit too exaggerated, and I think it works much better if you are to stick very strictly, especially for this piece, very strictly to those tempo markings, and when there isn't something written in terms of a tempo change, just to keep all of the inner notes steady. So instead of, you know, exaggerating a sense of movement and adding tempo swells, at the very least keep the pulls, so the high points and the low points in sort of a pendulum way, very steady. So you don't want to overdo anything. So here, let me try that again. Even if it's at a faster tempo, it's steady throughout. There aren't, again, swells. So that's a personal opinion. On the contrary, when you're playing Clair de Lune, I think the phrasing of that particular piece, you're playing it in a way that really suits the guitar and is more of guitar phrasing than, say, piano phrasing, in terms of where you're taking time and how you are clumping certain lines together. I think that works. So what I said about the tempo and the arabesque doesn't apply to everything. Maybe it's because also the effects that are being used, but yeah, like I said, I'm convinced. Really creative. Yeah, really creative. Next, we have some short pieces by Scott. I actually took a look at one of these already, Fugue in Oddball. I really like this one. I think there's a lot of very, very interesting harmonic elements here. And the lines themselves have this really nice balance of tension. The jacket must come off. Okay. So I have an idea. I'd like to share some suggestions that I would like you to consider as a version 2, not necessarily to change what is here and what you have already written, but to imagine another version completely. For starters, if we were to just hold down a pedal point at the beginning instead of having those half notes and then the whole note, I think it could serve as a more dramatic and not necessarily dramatic, but more intense opening. Something like that. Just because the line that you wrote has a lot of weaving around some sort of central line, and I quite like that. And I think it could be brought out more if we don't have a counter line yet. And then when another line comes in, it can serve as a transition point where this idea opens up into a dialogue between the two parts. So that might be a suggestion. I like this. This is great. That is a great line. And now with I like that. It's great. So when it comes back in measure 28 here, something about the second half of those two measures, so right here, I know it's opening up into a consonance after a lot of chromaticism, but something about it, I feel like that release happens a little too soon, because I want the release to happen when we come back to the single line. So when the single line comes back, or up until that point, I want there to be just as much tension. And that relieves it a little more. I don't know what pitches I would put in place of that. Maybe something like that, where I just replace the E here with a B flat that's higher. So our ears are hearing C sharp going to the D, but there's that tension there. I don't know, just worth considering. Something about the ending, I think the momentum stops a little sooner. I have a tiny idea. What if you, at the end, you pulled up that D up an octave? So instead of going, we will play. What if you went straight into the octave? And then closed it off with a note added with the left hand to either create, you know, a consonant major type sound ending or something else. I changed my mind. I like what you had before, but I still would maybe prefer just going straight to that octave. Something like that, or I don't know, whatever pitch you add. Something worth considering. Very minor detail. Let's go to another one. I wanted to look at this one, changes. That's really pretty. So I have some thoughts about this. This is very beautiful, really. Very serene, very calm, and very melodic. I wanted to try this out because a pattern like this is quite difficult, actually, because you have to play that last A with either your second finger or your third finger, or anyway, long story short, going from A to F is a lot harder than it seems. That's not the only reason, but that's one of the reasons why I might consider at certain points to just forego the A and just go to the top. So maybe every other. That might be a little more lilting. Okay, so with that in mind, I am omitting the last note for, a number of measures here. It's a very tiny change, but I think it makes a difference. I think it adds a little more, just a little more lilt, and it's just shaving a tiny bit off of each little left-hand phrase. Try it, consider it. Really, I don't think it's necessary, but it's something that I would consider. So I'll wrap it up here for this installment of these reviews. It's been an absolute pleasure just getting to know your works and your performances. It's really cool. So thank you so much for replying with the posts and the sheet music and the links and everything. And I hope that was helpful. Have a great weekend or week, and I'll see you very soon.